Welcome back, friends. So if we have, so there's going to be one here that one quote that brother will say is that, you know, he does what he can and then he leaves it to God. And I hope I have the direct allusion to that. Yes. Example. Um, yes. Where is it? Page 9 of Martinez. Let's see if we can read it without our glasses. So that as for the miseries and sins he heard of daily in the world, he was so far from wondering at them that on the contrary he was surprised that there were not more, considering the malice sinners were capable of us. For his part he prayed for them, but knowing that God could remedy the mischief they did, when he pleased, he gave himself no further trouble. That sounds like a very pacifist approach. And um, and I had to take it back because I immediately thought of, if you will, two sets of individuals. Those who are looking for the illumination of conscience, and that's within the Catholic realm. Those who think the illumination of conscience is going to solve all woes. And it's the only way it's going to solve all woes. But then there's our Protestant brethren. They're looking for the rapture, because that too will solve all woes, albeit in a different mechanism.
Right.
And so it seems to me Brother Lawrence might be giving you credence to just say, oh, society and other whatnots going to, proverbial places.
Right.
And let's just wash our hands and just pray about it and go about our business.
Mm-hmm.
And I would this is, he lived at the same time as John Locke, writing his two treatises of government. And that would be taking Brother, he's in a religious community. He has certain prohibitions around him. And that would be, to me, taking out a concept and without having the full context of what he's about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because obviously within his mission, one has to, there is an engagement where you shake the dust from your feet and say enough, right? But there's also just the element of recognizing in humility what your role is.
Yes.
And whether or not you are the one that is being called to fulfill that task. Because actually, I'm reading right now The Discernment of the Spirits by Ignatius. And, one of the things that he'll talk about is how, when you're not on the path of God, the demons will give you great insights and make you feel better about all the bad things that you're doing, right? And your holy angels will pick your conscience and say, this is wrong. And then when you turn around, then it's going to be the reverse, right? That the demons will propose to you that they're annoyed by what you're doing, and your good angels will give you consolation, right? But when you're already doing that really good work, and I don't know if St. Ignatius if he speaks of this completely, but I do think that it's apropos with Brother Lawrence, that when you are doing something good, oftentimes Satan will goad you to do something even more good. Oh, do something more good, right? Do something more good. And there's a,
yes.
You can be consumed with never accomplishing anything because you think that your mission is always the next one. And I think that Brother Lawrence is very good at recognizing that there comes a point where he recognizes that to go beyond that, to go beyond his order or to his rule, is to no longer be doing the good. And so, like Christ, I think, where he says, so he turns them over to their sin.
Yes.
Which is, I think, somewhat different from. It's not a passive. It's not appeasement in the sense of like being a pacifist. It's actually more active because you are you recognize that this is not your mission.
That's right. Figure out where your lane is and stay in it.
Stay in it.
That's right. So that was just a little snip, and without that I wanted to show that we just want to really always be in his in context of what it is. So
Right.
let's take a few judicious quotes, or at least the quotes. He's like, every time you pick it up, you find a new quote.
That is true. Yeah.
So this one, to my ears, says page 100 in the Critical, sounded very much like Teresa of Avila. He said, brother, that we must act very straightforwardly with God and speak to him freely, asking him for help in events as they happen, for God never fails to come to our aid, as he often experienced. He had recently been asked to go to Burgundy to get the wine supply, a painful task for him. Not only did he lack skill in these matters, but his leg was crippled, and he could only get about on the boat by dragging himself over the barrels. Yet he did not worry about it or his purchase of wine. He told God it was his problem, after which he discovered that all was accomplished and all was done well.
Yeah, that is very much like St. Teresa of Avila, right? If this is how you treat your friends, no wonder you have so few.
That's right.
This is your
And you
problem,
speak,
Lord, not mine.
and what would she describe her definition of prayer? Is
Right.
talking very honestly to God.
Right. Yeah.
This be truthful. And so I thought that was delightful. Since we did Francis de Sales, which was a delight, I thought, okay. So here's a change. So the 1980, what is it? 85. This year, 1896 or something, the old one. I liked the translation just a teeny bit better because, and we'll talk about it, they'll use the word devotion here.
Yeah.
A devoted, to be very devoted. And then that, to me, brings out the Francis de Sales
Right.
type. But in any event, Brother said that we must establish ourselves in God's presence by continually conversing with him, and that it was shameful to give up conversation with him to turn to foolishness. We must nourish our souls with an exalted. Okay, so I'm about to number it. Continually converse with him, nourish our souls with an exalted idea of God, and thereby we will draw a great joy from being with him, or as the older translation, being devoted to him. We must enliven our faith, for it is a shame that we have so little. So there was that devotion. Mothers. I thought this one could very well speak to mothers. This is in the third conversation. Brother said that the trust we have in God honors him greatly and brings us great graces. God cannot deceive, nor can he permit a soul abandoned to himself and resolved to endure everything for him to suffer for a long time. So oftentimes, right, mothers, we want to honor him and abandon ourselves to him. And he says we will not suffer, particularly over our children, our loved ones, that sort of thing. He says we will not have to suffer for a long time. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, that is so much like the Ignatian discernment of the spirits too, right? That when you're in a spirit of desolation, when you're feeling disconsolate, it's an act of the will to recollect that that all suffering is of short duration and that consolations will come again soon, right? Because in doing that and recognizing that, it makes the cross that you are carrying so much easier to bear. You know, Satan would like to keep us bound in our misery and to make us believe so entirely that there is no end to it, that this cross that we're carrying is never going, it's only going to get heavier, it's never going to go away. And yet you hear from these great mystics who have endured great suffering. I mean, it's obvious that Brother Lawrence carries his affliction with him every day. He's probably in pain every single day from this wound that he had sustained in a war that then caused him not only physical pain, but heart pain, right? An agony of the soul that made him sorrowful for what he had done, right? So he bears his wound both in his soul and in his body. And yet he who carries these wounds with him, both spiritually and physically, is able to tell us very clearly consolation will come again soon.
That is correct. That is correct. Let's pick this up. I think until the next time, my friends. Fide Sriracha.